You ever had one of those moments where you're standing in a store, clutching a crumpled dollar, praying it's enough to get you through the night? That was me, Lila Carter, 6 years ago, in a grimy little corner market in Brooklyn, my hands shaking as I begged for a bottle of milk for my baby boy, Ethan. I was 6 months pregnant with my daughter, Sophie, and let me tell you, the weight of the world wasn't just on my shoulders, it was crushing my whole damn chest. The clerk, this greasy guy named Vince, just sneered down at me, his breath reeking of stale coffee. "Lady, this ain't a charity," he snapped, leaning over the counter like he owned my dignity. "No cash, no milk. Beat it." Behind me, the line grumbled, some suit muttering about welfare scams, a lady sighing like I was wasting her precious time. And then, these two kids at the back, phones out, filming me like I was some viral sob story. "Yo, check out the broke chick begging for milk." One laughed, and my face burned so hot I thought I'd combust right there. But effing me, little man was crying at home, his tiny fists balled up from hunger, and that image kept me rooted. "I'll scrub your floors," I said, voice cracking but firm. "I'll do anything. Just give me the milk." Vince just laughed, a mean, guttural sound. "You can't even reach the mop bucket, sweetheart." Then, out of nowhere, a voice cut through the noise, low, calm, like a storm about to break. "That's enough." The whole store froze. This guy, Marcus Reed, stepped out from the shadows by the fridge section, tall, in a dark coat that screamed money but eyes that burned with something else, anger, maybe, or something deeper. He walked right up to Vince, staring him down. What kind of man gets off bullying a woman begging for her kid? His words weren't loud, but they hit like a sledgehammer. Vince flinched, mumbling, "This ain't your business, man." Marcus didn't blink. "It is now." He turned to me, knelt down, his eyes softening. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lila," I whispered, clutching my last dollar like it was a lifeline. "And Ethan's your boy?" I nodded. He stood, pulled out a sleek wallet, and slapped $100 on the counter. "Ring up the milk." "Hell, ring up whatever she needs for the month." Vince's jaw dropped, the kids with their phones slunk out, and the crowd went dead quiet, suddenly real interested in their shoes. I got home that night, Ethan finally quiet in my arms, the milk warm in his bottle. But I couldn't shake the feeling this stranger, Marcus, had seen me when no one else did. Why? I was nobody, just a broke single mom in a crumbling apartment, dodging eviction notices from my landlord, Carl Grayson. That guy was a piece of work leaned against my doorframe every week, cigarette dangling, smirking like he owned my soul. "You're 3 months behind, Lila," he'd say, flicking ash on my stoop. "Pay up, or you and your kid are out." I'd beg, promised to scrape it together, but his eyes said he enjoyed watching me squirm. And now, with Marcus's help, I had groceries, but Carl wasn't letting up. He started leaving notes, nasty ones, calling me a freeloader, plastering them around the block for everyone to see. "Charity case living off some rich guy's pity," one read. My neighbors whispered, some laughed, and I felt like I was shrinking every time I stepped outside. Then it got worse. One morning, a CPS worker showed up, a stiff lady with a clipboard, saying someone reported I wasn't feeding Ethan right. My heart stopped. "Who said that?" I demanded, but she just scribbled notes, eyeing my cracked walls like they proved I was unfit. I knew it was Carla's way of twisting the knife. He'd been buying up half the block, jacking up rents, pushing out families like mine to flip the buildings for profit. I was just another obstacle in his way. I stood there, Ethan on my hip, Sophie kicking inside me, and told her, "My kids are safe. You're not taking them." But her cold stare said she wasn't so sure. Marcus showed up that night, his coat dusted with snow, his voice steady but sharp. "They won't take your kids, Lila. Not while I'm here." I wanted to believe him, but trust doesn't come easy when you've been burned before. "Why us?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked at me, eyes heavy with something like regret. "Because I was you once begging for scraps, invisible. I won't let that happen to you." He handed me a folder, scholarships, food vouchers, a whole damn lifeline. I wanted to shove it back, prove I could do it alone, but Sophie's tiny kicks and Ethan's soft snores in the next room said I didn't have that luxury. Carl didn't back off. He hit harder, eviction notices slipped under my door, posters smearing my name, even a shady CPS order to snatch my kids, signed by some corrupt supervisor in his pocket. I was shaking, staring at that paper, picturing Ethan and Sophie torn from me. Marcus stormed in, snatched the order, and tore it apart literally and legally. "This is garbage," he growled, facing down the CPS worker and a cop like they were nothing. "No judge signed this. You touch her kids, you're answering to a federal courtroom." They backed off fast. But Carl wasn't done. One night, I smelled smoke thick, choking smoke. Carl had set a fire in the basement, thinking he could scare us out, or worse. Marcus got us out, me clutching Ethan, Sophie pressed against my chest, the flames licking at our heels. That was his last mistake. Marcus didn't just went to war. He called in Elena, this sharp-as-hell journalist who sniffed out corruption like a bloodhound. She dug up Carl's dirt payoffs to CPS, fake housing inspections, families driven out for his real estate empire. Her article hit like a bomb, exposing him to the whole city. Neighbors started talking, sharing their own stories of Carl's threats. The whispers turned into a roar. Carl tried to fight back, pounding on my door, screaming, "You think some newspaper saves you? You're nothing." But Marcus was there, stepping between us, his voice cold as ice. "Step away, Carl, or the next story's about you in handcuffs." Carl slunk off, but we all knew he was cornered. The trial came fast. I stood in that courtroom, heart pounding, telling the truth about Carl's threats, his fire, his lies. My voice shook, but I didn't break. The jury didn't blink. Carl went down, locked up for arson, extortion, the works. The neighborhood cheered, but I just wanted to hold my kids and breathe. That's when things changed, not just for me, but for everyone. I started volunteering at the community center, reading with kids like Isaiah, who reminded me of Ethan, scared but stubborn. One day, I got asked to speak at a city forum on poverty. Me? I'm no speaker, I thought. But I stood up there, told my story. Hunger, fear, fighting for my babies in the room stood with me, clapping, crying. That speech went viral, and suddenly, I wasn't just Lila anymore. I was a voice. They asked me to speak in D.C., a national conference, big lights, big crowds. I was terrified, a nobody from Brooklyn, on a stage like that. But Sophie, my little girl, looked up at me and said, "Mommy, you're the bravest person I know." So I went. I stood there, told the world about the nights I sold my last ring for milk, about Carl's fire, about Marcus seeing us when no one else did. I said, every voice matters, especially the ones the world tries to silence. The crowd roared, and I realized my story wasn't just mine, it was theirs, too. I came home to news vans, reporters, even a senator wanting me to join his campaign. I turned him down. My voice isn't for sale. Instead, I started Voices Unbroken, a group for survivors like me to share their stories, to rise together. Now, picture this, a warm summer evening, me on my balcony, Ethan and Sophie laughing inside, the city lights stretching out like a promise. I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm living, fighting, building something bigger than me. But here's the thing. Some folks still say I'm just chasing fame. That one voice can't change a damn thing. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong. What do you think? Can one story spark a fire, or is it just a drop in the bucket? Drop a comment. Share your take. Have you ever had to fight to be heard, or seen someone stand up when no one else would? Let's talk about it. Hit that like button if Lila's story hit you hard, and subscribe for more real stories that remind us nobody's invisible forever.